Mayor de Blasio has been in office for nearly 7 years and 10 months. Direct questions. What do you think have been his biggest successes, his biggest failures? And if you were a teacher, what grade would you give him? Let's start with Mr. Sliwa. Yes, sir.
Is there a grade below D minus? F.
Let's move on to the next subject. Mariella?
Yes, it has to do with immigration. Right now, an estimated 600,000 people living in New York City are classified as legal non-U.S. citizens. They are immigrants who are here legally, but they can vote in elections. So right now, there's a proposal in City Council to allow them to vote in local elections.
Idanis Rodriguez, councilman of Washington Heights, who has a green card, which means he's been able to bring his family here. He is able to tap into all the benefits available to citizens. The only thing you can't do with a green card is vote. It's a privilege. Or if you have a work visa, I would maintain it as it is. If you want to be able to vote, Idanis Rodriguez and those with green cards could become citizens. They just have to take the test, but they choose not to want to be citizens.
Those documented New Yorkers' green card should have the right to participate in local elections. My understanding, the law department states that the state must carry that out. That's not going to be the power among the city council or our city. And so hopefully the state lawmakers will look at that and make the determination what's the best thing for the city.
The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. We are facing challenges. However, I, Eric Adams,
I, Eric Adams,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Charter of the City
and the Charter of the City
of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of
the Mayor of the City of New York, according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
You announced last night that you're going to support a law passed last month in New York City, which will allow roughly 800,000 legal non-citizens to vote in local elections, provided that they've lived in New York for at least 30 days. You previously called the bill problematic and expressed concern about giving a right to vote to non-citizens who have only been here for a short amount of time. I think there are a lot of Americans watching right now who might share your concerns. And also, doesn't the bill just make a mockery of the idea of American citizenship, though? I mean, this is just for local elections, but does that mean, like, next New York City is going to want non-citizens to vote in federal elections? I mean, and what do you say to all the people who went through the process, the difficult process of becoming an American citizen, studying for the test, swearing an oath of allegiance to the United States of America, who now see this legislation just saying, well, anyone who's here, you can go ahead and vote?
Being in the country for 30 days was the place that I had questions. And I sat down with my colleagues. I'm a big believer in conversation. We have to start talking to each other and not at each other. And after hearing their rationale and their theories behind it, I thought it was more important to not veto the bill or get in the way at all and allow the bill to move forward. In New York City, just Brooklyn, for example, 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English at home when I was the borough president. And so I think it's imperative that people who are in a local municipality have the right to decide who's going to govern them. And I support the overall concept of that bill.
Sing it like you mean it. Sing it like you mean it. You cannot honor Martin Luther King without the vote.
Right now, I am doing everything in my power in Washington to advance legislation that would strengthen our democracy and protect the right to vote to all Americans in free and fair election. We've tried to bring our Republican colleagues to the table in good faith. No one has come over to our side.
The march must go on toward justice.
Chuck Schumer says this is a response to the 2020 election and the state election laws passed in 2021, That's obviously not a true statement because the bill they're peddling was first introduced, in 2019. 94% of Americans agree it is, quote, easy to vote. There is no widespread voter suppression in this country, and everybody knows it. In fact, for Democrats, the only problem they're seeking to solve is the problem of how to secure for themselves more votes. Now, we've heard in New York, Democrats recently voted to allow foreign citizens to vote in American elections. You heard it right. It's a blatantly unconstitutional scheme that defies the most basic rule of our system. Hey, 7th grade civics, American elections should be decided by American citizens.
New York City, on the verge of allowing hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants vote, and now the governor in California promising economic benefits as well. How do you stem, how do you ever control your border, any country, any nation in the world, when once you get through, you know that the honor system, you'll never have to report back. Red carpet, green light, come on up, we've got vacancies. But shouldn't we be smarter with respect to an organized way of allowing folks into this nation?
The worst border crisis that we have seen ever, certainly in our lifetimes, but really ever. And I think the United States continues to be one of the most generous and welcoming countries around the world, but there is a legal way, there's an orderly way, and there's process to get into the country legally. But when you discard that, and when you're the Biden administration and you put forth a set of policies and messaging that encourage illegal behavior to come across, you end up with what you have today, which is a colossal failure of a border security and immigration enforcement strategy. And I think that's what's leading. I think a lot of people are scratching their heads and saying, what is going on?
People who did not live in the United States, growing up in the United States, don't understand the political system in the United States, to understand that they can vote in a local election, but they can't vote in a state election, that they can't vote in a federal election. If they vote in a federal election, they've committed a crime that they would go to jail. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what am I allowed to vote in and what am I not allowed to vote in? I think that's a huge problem. And I think the other huge problem is me as a New York City resident, lifelong resident, okay, who plans on living here for the rest of their life and understands the politics, somebody who comes from another country, undocumented, comes to the U.S. for 30 days, gets to decide on our leaders. And I don't know that if that person who comes after 30 days is there in a year from now.
President Biden has spread so much misinformation about the basic facts of state voting laws that he was called out and debunked by, listen to this, the Washington Post. A sitting president of the United States who pledged to lower the temperature and unite America now invokes the brutal racial hatred of Jim Crow segregation to smear states whose new voting laws are more accessible than, for example, Delaware. It's a big lie. A group of politicians are trying to set aside election results, overrule American voters, and break our institutions to get a political outcome they want. I'm speaking, of course, about the Senate Democratic leader and the radical left. Breaking the Senate and silencing the voices of millions of citizens so that one political party can take over our nation's elections from the top down. The Democratic leader is using fake hysteria.
What Chuck Schumer and his allies on the left are doing to America completely unacceptable.